Our second presenter has spent 20 years providing information technology solutions to businesses and government. I recall my first meeting with these guys, and what I found, I guess, super impressive was that we spent an hour talking about IT with IT guys, and they didn't mention the phrase IT once. So to me, I think that's quite impressive. Please join me in a warm welcome from ECLEVA, Mr. Antun Scurla.
Firstly, hi, welcome, and thanks for taking the time to attend the workshop. Just like David, you were kind enough to jot down a number of questions, etc., that you were interested in last month's session. As you can see, just like David, they're all quite diverse. And to address them fully would take much more time than we have available. Nonetheless, I love a challenge. However, I'm going to try to help you address and answer those questions by providing some contextual frameworks that might lift up the view that will hopefully assist you in addressing them. Hopefully, I'll also be a little bit controversial in the process, because apart from a challenge, I also like a bit of controversy. So my presentation today is about innovation in the age of disruption. I think we'd all agree that we're living through a time of great change. The conversations tend to focus on technology for many reasons, which tends to also mask what's really going on. The change is actually being driven by ideas. It's just that technology has reached a level of sophistication and availability that allows ideas to be enabled in new ways and much more quickly. So it's providing us with an opportunity to enable our ideas that we have. The real challenge for us as business leaders is what new ideas can we generate? And how quickly can we adapt our businesses to leverage the opportunity that technology has presented? So don't focus on the rate of technology change. Don't focus on the rate of technology change. Focus on generating ideas in your business. So, first interactive question. Who are you focused on? My priority is to make my customers successful, my employees successful, myself, etc. Excellent. That's what I expected. As business leaders, number 5 is the world that we live in. We're focused all the time on all of these components of success. Right? I'm going to argue that number 1 is the secret sauce, and that we're being distracted by all of the above, and we need to focus on number 1. I'm suggesting that our most important job as business leaders is to make our customers more successful. In her workshop a couple of months ago, Sonia from Twin Life talked about putting your customer at the heart of your business. I'm going to tweak that a little bit, and I'm going to say that you should be putting your customer's success at the heart of your business. I'd also suggest that making your employees more successful in their jobs is a direct input to customer success. And your success and your shareholder success is an output of the efforts that you put into those 2 areas. What is success? There are many definitions, and we can talk for hours around what definitions of success are. I'm going to take a very simple, pragmatic view and apply it in a technology context. Doing things with less effort, more quickly and more cheaply. If you can achieve those 3, and technology is fantastically placed to help you achieve those 3, you're doing great. You can increase quality, you can increase other forms of value, but that gets a little bit harder. This stuff's a little bit easier. And I'm going to give you 3 examples to give you a little bit of context on that. Patrick Northcott, our CEO, hates people talking about Uber because everyone talks about Uber. But it's a very easy, simple example. Their customer is anyone who needs a ride. They devised a process through which the customer could get a ride more easily, more quickly, and more cheaply than established taxi services. That's it. The technology they used, nothing fancy about it. It was around for ages, but they devised a business process where they could leverage it and deliver better success to their customers. Note that the taxi industry was already technology intensive. Radios, contact centres, booking systems, FPOS terminals, etc. Right? They took all of that out and simplified the experience for the customer, made it cheaper, made it easier. A little bit closer to home, one of our own customers who have developed a printer leasing solution. The issue with there is you've got customers, and we as customers want flexibility. Right? We want to be able to not worry about machines and other things. We want to be able to pay per print. Right? So I'm doing 1,000 prints this year. This month I'll pay you for 1,000 prints. I'm doing 10,000 next month. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I want. That makes my life easier, etc. On the back end, though, the leasing companies are actually dealing with financiers who don't work like that. What they want is they want to have a piece of capital like a tractor or something. Or a building that's linked in and that they're getting a cash flow against. So what did these guys do? They basically said, well, we're going to make it easier for the customer and we're going to handle the complexity. So they devised a system whereby they could make their customers' lives easier, cheaper, all that sort of stuff, carry the complexity onto themselves, and then use the technology to actually lift the complexity off of their employees. So, again, just another example where the focus on the idea, the focus on the value chain, the focus on customer success was enabled through the technology. Last example, document distribution solution for one of our construction companies. There are if you can imagine in construction, you do a lot of plans, those plans get changed, the plans need to be distributed to subcontractors, the change plans need to be distributed, you need to make sure that everyone's got the latest plans so they don't make a mistake, they're all working off the same thing. There are large monolithic systems out there that allow you to manage this. This particular customer went, that's too hard for my employees. That's not really giving them the productivity that they want by going into this monolithic system. What we want is we want to use Outlook. We want to, because that's how our people work. We want to be able to distribute documents via Outlook, make sure that the people that are getting them are the right people, getting the right version at the right time. So we built them a system that uses Outlook, that does that. It also uses Dynamics CRM, and it also uses SharePoint aspects of Office 365, right? But again, the idea was the genesis of enabling that with the technology. And they're doing it more cheaply in those monolithic systems. The employees don't have to step out of their normal work environments to achieve it. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 4 key contextual linchpins. I can't give you ideas on how to change your business to leverage the technology opportunity. In fact, you, your customers and your employees are best placed and uniquely placed to do that. The secret sauce is not in the technology, it's in you understanding your customers and your business. And you've got it, it's accessible. You know your customers better than anyone else. What I can do is provide you with a few ways to think about how to best make your ideas real. IT is becoming like electricity. Becoming? Not quite, but it is. Agility is everything. Adoption is everything. And partnering is everything. So, they're just 4 ways to think about the issues, and I'll take you quickly through each one of those. IT is becoming like electricity. This particular graph shows the move of social change over time. Some academic did it some time ago, but what I want to focus on is that little black graph, which is actually the development of electricity aligned with electrical engineering. There was a time when electricity was a source of competitive advantage and a talking point. In the early 20th century, you had chief electrical officers. You had, hundreds of technical people focused on making sure that electricity works and electricity works in the right sort of way. That's no longer the case. IT, I would argue, and David made the point earlier, is a baseline requirement, right? You can't work anymore without IT being a part of your business. So IT is becoming like electricity. Why is that important? Because how much do you need to know about electricity to actually succeed in your business? The key enablers of this technology disruption, just thought I'd reiterate the point. These 4 things have come together to make everything accessible, etc. Interactive question number 2. Most of my applications of data are located on which one of these? Good. From a user perspective, we're fast approaching don't know, don't care. And the reality is that on-premise implementations are shrinking, right? And they will continue to shrink. There's a significant expansion in public cloud. So that's just a little bit of a graph showing the projections on how this sort of stuff is going. I think they're actually under projecting. When we go out there and we talk to people, public cloud is going gangbusters. So don't know, don't care. The data, the apps, everything is accessible. Another one. I couldn't live without my... Oh, cool. Selection 7 is a little bit of a facetious kind of point, because I can live without my computer terminal. Unless you're a hacker, you're probably okay with that. We're using multiple devices, right? And while there's some convergence, we will continue to use multiple devices. The thing that's important to note when you're thinking about how people are accessing technology, etc., is that they're using different devices at different times. So smartphones, extremely convenient, etc. But PCs still dominate working hours. You've got a bit more of a convergence between PCs and tablets at night. So, just to summarise, IT is becoming like electricity. How much do you need to know about electricity to be successful? The new appliance is the app. More and more apps are being written for specific deliverables. So what, rather than getting a general application, you're getting a specific one. You're getting platforms that are general, but you're getting applications that are very vertical. And the model is very similar to the appliance model. All right. Sorry, someone put in a little bit of animation for me. Second contextual point, agility is everything. Who Who knows about waterfall development? Hands up. All right, cool. This has come to us from construction and engineering. It's been delivering value for hundreds of years. It's a way of building things and going a process and methodology to kind of ensure that what you want to build, you build. The most important aspect of it is that each phase needs to be pretty much completed before the next phase starts. That's why it's a waterfall. That's why it's called waterfall development. It's really good under certain conditions. The first is where the requirements are static. So if you're building a dam or a multi-story building or whatever, you know up front pretty much what you want to end up with. The requirement is pretty static, where the implementation will take a long time. So the implementation phase, again, if you're building a dam, you're going to be working on it for a long time, so you can kind of afford to spend a bit more time in analysis and design and things like that. It's deficient in a couple of key areas. One is where the requirements change quickly. Right? So if you're trying to build something in a year or 2 years and your requirements are changing on a monthly basis, you're going to build the wrong thing. Yeah? So that's one of the biggest disadvantages of it. In fact, the other disadvantage is that if you follow a waterfall methodology for business development, and I'm just not just application development, but even changes to your business, you will tend to over-engineer the result. You will build things in there that you really don't want or need. I did civil engineering as my university degree, and we used waterfall and all this sort of stuff. And I have to say that we used a safety factor, right? And that safety factor was 1.7. So whenever we designed anything, when we worked out the forces on a bridge or a beam or whatever, we had to multiply it by 1.7 for the safety factor. The over-engineering, hopefully that still doesn't apply today because that's a huge waste. The over-engineering occurs for different reasons in application and business development, but over-engineering does occur. The alternative is agile development. What agile development does is it sets up a vision for the product that you want, but then breaks it down into discrete chunks. So you're actually only working at discrete chunks that deliver value, right? And those sprint cycles might take from 2 weeks to a month. So you're talking very short development times. Where this is really good is where your requirements, right, are not 100% clear, they're dynamic, and you want to retain the ability to change them as you go. Again, I'm saying that actually I'll make that point on the next slide. So, from an agile development perspective, 60 to 80% of software developers use agile coding methods today. This is up from 1% in 2000. So it's been a huge change in our development, the way we do development. It's been more recently adopted by marketers. Digital marketeers and marketeers in general have adopted agile development. It is being adopted more and more generally in business for business process development. This is a few core concepts first. The agile development focuses on product, not the project. You want to get something out there that's working, right? That you can test, that's delivering value. You don't want to focus on the whole project end to end. Each discrete deliverable is what you focus on. Prototypes in production, delivered quickly. Most importantly, get feedback quickly, learn, and accept a certain level of imperfection. And you stop when enough value has been achieved. Right? This is how you prevent over-engineering. because you're doing it with incremental steps. And every time you do a step, you can decide whether you should invest in the next step. Why? Why do we need to be fast and all that now? Well, it's because everything is moving fast now. Consumption spreads much faster today. If you wait too long to make a change, you will miss the boat. So if you think a change is a good idea, you need to do it quickly. I love the refrigerator, right? A black line there, 1920s or whatever, took to the 1960s to have 100% penetration into the market. Cell phones, internets, right? 5, 10 years. And the newer technologies will be even quicker. So, and this is just a point. You'll get all these slides in the, when they're published, so you can look at them in detail. This is really just a thing from McKinsey, right? Talking about the more general applicability of these agile development ideas to business as a whole, not just application development. So, have a look at that. Adoption is everything. So, clearly, if we want to introduce any change, it needs to be adopted. Right? So, what are the drivers of adoption? What things do you need to think about with a new idea going into the marketplace? Relative advantage. How much of an improvement is it really? People get excited about new ideas, but this is the first test. The first test is it an improvement, a significant enough improvement to make my life easier, make me do things faster, or save me money? Uber ticks it. I mean, I used to catch a lot of cabs. Uber's a lot easier, cheaper, and faster. Compatibility. How easily can be assimilated in my daily life, my daily work life? We do a lot of B2B. The way to think about it is about work life. How easy is it, in fact, to be assimilated, right? And this is where device use issues come in hand as well, right? Will I be using a mobile phone to enable this improvement, right? If I'm using a mobile phone, when am I going to use it? Do I need to use a desktop computer, therefore I'm stuck at work? All of these sorts of things, right? From a Uber perspective, again, I use my phone, it's a very simple app, it's very easily incorporated into my daily life. Complexity, how easy is it? Trialability is an interesting one, in the sense of how can I play with it? How easy is it for me to try it before I buy, right? So again, just some thought on, can you provide that experience when you're working with customers? Or another way of thinking about it is, if you're using the Agile methodology and you get a piece of change in really quickly, release it to your customers. Get them to try it. Get them to give you feedback on how easy it was to test, etc. And finally, observability. How visible is it to others? Because if someone is off in a corner using this by themselves, then there's no incentive, there's less incentive to adopt. Training, right, can form a part, a necessary part of each of these kind of aspects. If you design a perfect product, right, or service or whatever, or interface for your customers to use, you actually don't need any training for this. That's highly unlikely. But what you do want to do is think about, do I need to train people in the relative advantage? Do I need to train people in how to incorporate it in their daily lives? The other thing to think about is that these adoption factors apply as much to your employees as your customers. So if you want your employees to actually adopt technology and to use it and to leverage it, you need to think about these things in the context of employees. Is there a relative advantage to them using these new methods, etc.? What is that relative advantage, right? Does it fit in with the way that they work? It's the same concept, but it's a set of tests to apply whenever you're applying some change. All right, and then the last contextual linchpin, which is partnering is everything. Now, I've said you need ideas, you guys need to know your business, don't get distracted by technology and all that sort of stuff. You still need, obviously, you therefore need technology partners to fill that gap, right? The first point is you have to partner. There's no way that, unless you're actually building your own kind of IT-based app or something like that, and you're putting the engineers and everything else into it, you're going to have to partner with someone to help you do that. At ECLEVA, we partner with other technology firms. Why? Because we can't do everything. There are whole aspects of things that our customers need that we can't do, and it doesn't make sense for us to invest in it. We partner, right? So you have to partner. Tell your partner what business outcome you want to achieve. Don't be tempted to tell them how to do it. We get this a lot, where people come in and they say, hey, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to achieve, and by the way, I've got this great idea of how to get there, right? You're cutting down on creativity if you do that. You can have the idea, keep it in your back pocket. Let the partner come up with their own ideas. I want to achieve this outcome. You tell me how you think it can be achieved. Share your constraints, right? You need to think about which constraints you want to share. Budget is an important one. If I'm talking to you and you say, I don't know, whatever it costs, that doesn't really help me, right? It doesn't help me with ideas. It doesn't help me with looking at what to draw from the kit bag. If you say I want to do something for 20K, 50K, that gives me something. That's a constraint. I know if I suggest something that's going to be $500,000, you're probably not going to go for it unless I can show significant value differentiation. But constraints might also be time. They might be your work practice. Share your constraints. And finally, if they don't get it, find another partner. I mean, the challenge for us as IT providers now, and this is why we don't talk IT generally in the first instance, we talk business. The challenge for us as IT providers is we need to talk business. We need to help people achieve their business outcomes. So, Michelle, could you distribute the little worksheet? So I've just got a little worksheet there, and all I've done is basically said, hey, think of your customer's success, think of your employee's success, think of the notions of easier, faster, quicker, and jot down any three things that, in terms of how you guys are doing business with your customers and how your employees are doing business for your customers, that could be improved. Right? Now, what I'm also going to do is keep those once you've jotted them down, because in about a month's time, I'm going to call each and every one of you, and I'm going to say, tell me what you wrote, and tell me what you've done about it. Okay? Sorry? No, I'm not going to collect it. You keep that form. write that down, keep that form. When I call you, I'm going to refer to that form, and you can just tell me. So, just what do you need to do in your business to make your customers more successful, to make your employees more successful? Focus on business first and IT second. Any questions? Yeah.
Are we moving into an era where, rather than app development, it's moving into integration of other apps? You've got things like Zapier out there now, Azuka, where you've got so many apps available that, you know, and I've got distracted by this myself, you can play around with actually integrating them and automating the entire system rather than developing the back end.
So there's a couple of different, that's certainly a trend that's occurring, but another trend that's occurring is the horizontal platform development, right? So if you look at something like Microsoft and even Google, right? But what they're doing is they're putting all these tool sets, right? Microsoft has this thing called Dynamics 365. Dynamics 365 is CRM, it's ERP, it's everything, right? As a horizontal set of capabilities. But what they're actually incentivizing the channel to do is to build vertical apps through those, right? That leverage aspects of the platform, right? So they'll be providing the integration services, right? And if you imagine that from Microsoft's strategy, when they achieve that platform, there is no integration because the data is all there being commonly used, right? So the channel is being incentivized to develop just vertical slice apps. So I don't think in the short term there'll be any less confusion about having all these multiple apps and things. But the way to think about it is that, hey, I've got this shelf here. I've got a business idea, right? Who can tell me which bits to pull off the shelf to make that happen? Does that make sense? Yes, that's right.
What's the difference between public and private cloud?
So a private cloud is when you put your data on a third-party kind of accessible infrastructure or your own infrastructure. So Azure, AWS would be a private cloud sort of thing. You're still responsible for your data. They're just providing hosting, etc. The public cloud is more like Google or Microsoft, right? Where they actually just control it all, right? And you don't actually need to do anything except run the app. There are some definitional anomalies there, but in essence, that's pretty much it. Sorry? Yeah, that's right.
Have you, or maybe even anyone in the room, had any success using a product like Zapier?
We haven't used it. Have we? Patrick?
Yes, products like integration connectors, they're really great because they little bit. We'll take data from any of these apps and move it to another one. And there's a lot of them out there. Bluebeam, Zapier, the prices range from next to nothing to quite expensive. But they're very good tools to actually get your data and connectivity between different apps.
Which ones did you work with?
We use Zapier, we use Bluebeam, we use our own integrators, we use Discord, so integrate.
They're quite limited, aren't they, though, in terms of what they can actually do? It seems like a lot of companies are still holding on to trying to retain their ownership, just from what I've seen in terms of the flexibility.
It's less about the app like Zapier.
Yeah.
It's more around the API of the two endpoints that you're using. So if the API application programming place is what the application actually exposes so that you can get to it. And it's about what they expose in terms of their data. If they expose it, somebody in the middle can move. So if they don't, it's proprietary, then no one can move.
Yeah.
In the second slide, when you talked about Agile is everything, the one with the speed cycle, the sprint cycle, struck me that this system should be used for continuous improvement type processes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The way Agile addresses continuous improvement is it says, what's the value of the next improvement? So that if you like, there's another layer on top of it, right? You're always ranking value. So you might have 6 things that you can improve it with, but it always says, what's the most valuable? That's the next one to do. Don't do number 6, do number 1, do number 2, So yeah, absolutely it's continuous improvement. And, but with that, very much that value test as a first test.
Other questions?
Right, thank you.